Hi guys, yeah, I thought I was live just a minute ago. I've just been talking for the last 4 minutes, but I think the stream was a bit, I don't know, something going on with it. But give us a shout in the chat, guys, if you can hear me and see me. Anybody there? Anybody can hear me? Cool. Cheers, Ali. Cheers, Winzard. Excellent. Thanks, Jay. Thanks for joining, guys. Evening, Carl. Thank you for your support in the week. Eltron. Hi, Josh. SL21. So I'm just going to wait for a few more heads to join the chat and then I'll get started on this stream. And yeah, just a little bit of background, guys. Hi, Traitor to the Living. Hi, Jerry. Is that Jerry or Gary? Let me know, Gary or Jerry. I don't want to pronounce your name wrong. So yeah, some of you guys obviously joined the stream in the week, and I did say that I would be doing more of these, and this is the first more planned one, should I say. So after, hi Mr. Kirk, so yeah, after that stream I thought, what can I do? And I've wanted to do this for quite some time, is do some track breakdowns, maybe remix some tracks. And when I say remix, I don't mean remix and make a new version, I mean remix as in rebalance. And if you saw my Instagram post, yeah, I'm going to be using my Model 24 to do that. So it just means that I need to reroute everything from this project, because currently it's all in MPC and it's just coming out of a stereo on my mixing desk. So I'll tell you a little bit about the Model 24 as well, if you aren't familiar with these desks. So this desk has got 3 different modes on every channel. So it's got live mode, PC mode, and MTR mode. So live mode is for anything that you've got plugged in to the physical line inputs, which could be synth, samplers, any other instruments. PC mode is for the computer. So whenever I'm using Ableton or MPC or Bitwig or anything, I can reroute those channels to appear physically on these faders, and just having these faders to mix with is so much better than pushing a small, 2-inch graphic on the screen. And it just gives you so much more weight to the mix. So that's PC mode. And the final mode is MTR, which is just multi-track recording, which I've actually never used on this. It's got a built-in SD card and you can do multi-track recording to that card, but I've not actually, I think I've experimented with it once, but I've never really used it properly. So yeah, so as said in that Instagram video, this track is at 176. I now work at 170 and all my tracks are at 170. And the reason that I do that is so it's much easier for me to take these out live and mix them and know that because I don't use headphones, I beat match using my ears, and then whilst I'm playing live, I just nudge my BPM to match the track that's already playing. So if everything's at 170, I know that it's going to mesh at some point. So I am still DJing. I'm not using any sort of cheating kind of methods. It's literally just making sure that all my tunes are at the same BPM, so I can just live mix them and they'll fall in sync after I've done my kind of timing. So with this track, I need to bring it down 6 BPM, which means I need to adjust the breaks. Let's just go to the channel mixer. So these are all my programs. I don't need program 001, so I'm going to go up to an unused track, and I'm going to find that program 001. Let's find that there, and I'm going to go to pencil icon here and just delete it because we don't need it. So delete that, and I think there's a couple of other tracks I don't need. I don't think I'm using program anything that's not named, basically. So program 002 I don't need either. So that's this one, and I can just delete that. So yeah, so this track was originally made out of 5 or 6 sequences. So I stitched those together in song mode and came out with this version. So it says 320 bars, which is quite long. My tracks are usually at around 256 bars, but this track actually finishes around, I think it's bar 288. So I've just increased it to catch some of the reverb, so it doesn't actually go on that long, but it is about 7.5 minutes long, so it's still quite a fairly long track. So I'm going to play the track back to you guys first, so grab a drink, chill out, just have a listen, and we'll listen to it in stereo first at 176, and then once that's over in about 7 minutes, I'll start doing the work on the track. So yeah, I'll see you on the other side.
Lying just beneath everyday reality is a breathtaking world where much of what we perceive about the universe is wrong. Wrong. just beneath everyday reality is a breathtaking world where much of what we perceive about the universe is wrong. Lying just beneath everyday reality is a breathtaking world where much of what we perceive about the universe is wrong.
So that's it, guys. Let me just turn my volume down there. Yeah, so that's it, guys. So yeah, evening to you guys that have just joined a little bit later on. So yeah, evening Jeremy, Andrew, Only the Funk, is that Gerjo? Again, sorry if I'm pronouncing any names wrong. Micro Kid, thanks for joining, guys. So yeah, that is the track. So I don't mind the mix. It's okay. It sounds kind of decent, and I did all that inside MPC, and there's not an awful lot of effects. It's just really balancing the different things. Let me explain the sound design, because someone said about the dogs barking. There's no name, it's just a couple of lines for your name. I don't know who said that, but yeah, let me explain the sound effects, because there's no dogs, but there's a few little interesting stories about these. So let's go to the program editor. So this sound, so yeah, that sound called Gasso is actually one of my best friend's gas boilers that he had in his flat about 11 years ago. So I had my Zoom recorder, and I think it was around winter, and I come to stay with him, and his boiler was working overtime, and it was making all these really weird chirps and whistles. So yeah, that was just a Zoom recording of that. It's got some really nice sounds in it. And it sounds great when you put a delay on it. So yeah, a little story behind that. So this one, so that's actually the sound of an old metal cabinet which was in the basement of a flat that I used to live in. And this cabinet was like one of those top-loading freezers. I don't know if that's the right name for them, but it was like a huge metal cabinet, and you lifted up the lid. And inside it, the guy that used to own the flat had left it there, I believe. And I think he was an architect or a graphic designer. But it was like a huge, big filing cabinet for massive A1 sheets of paper, where he had all his sketches and designs and architectural drawings and stuff. But it was completely empty, other than these filing sort of, you know, kind of slots. So when you opened it up, it made this amazing kind of screeching sound. And that sound that you can hear, let me take the reverb off, is actually the natural reverb of it. And that's just within the actual thing itself. So it's probably about 2 meters long by about 1 meter deep and about maybe 1.5 meters high. So yeah, just a really interesting source of sound. As soon as I opened it, just, you know, I was just nosing around in the basement and I heard the sound of it. I thought, I've got to, you know, got to sample that. So that was that. So yeah, this is, as it's named, a broken upright piano. This was in the same flat in another room. So this basement was completely desolate. It was a really spooky place down there. But it just had tons of stuff to make field recordings out of. So yeah, just all the strings were broken, all the keys were broken, but yeah. So yeah, nice and sinister kind of stuff, just to make the backdrops and soundscapes. Yeah, so this funky bend loop, this was just from a recording I made of something like a circuit bent many years ago. I think it was a children's toy. So I just wired it up incorrectly and got all kinds of weird stuff out of it. So that's that. I've no idea what this sample called Honker is. I think it might be like an old car horn that I've sort of edited and manipulated a bit. Again, another synth, maybe this one. So this one is the one that someone had asked or said they'd love the dogs barking. This is actually a recording of some Polish guys and girls that had been out on a night out, that were walking past my flat in London about 10 or 12 years ago. And I thought there was going to be some trouble because they all sounded quite lively, but they were actually just having good fun in the snow. And it was like really snowy that winter, so that's why I called it Polak snow. So these guys were all throwing snowballs at each other, and I just thought it would be a fun thing to record. So it's actually a load of guys and girls just playing snowball fights outside my flat. And it's got a delay on it, obviously. Yeah, so that dog barking kind of sound is just one of their voices, I think.
Lying just beneath everyday reality is a breathtaking world where much of what we perceive about the universe is wrong.
So yeah, that's from just some space documentary that I found on YouTube. And I think I might have warped it and adjusted it just so it was roughly 7 bars long. You might be able to see just up the top here. It gives you the bar count. And it fitted perfectly to drop into the next set of bars. So, you know, it was just short of 8 bars. And it was just a great sample to kind of give it that kind of more spacey kind of feel. And that was it, basically. Right, so I'm going to reload this project back in because I've adjusted a few things and I don't want it to be like that. So let's just load it back in. And as said, yeah, the sequence on sequence 7 is the whole song, which I stitched together using the other sequences. So yeah, let's just bring this down to 170, which means the first job that I've got to do is go to the breaks, which are on track 1. So the first breaks track is like a dry break, so it doesn't have the ride cymbals on it. And the one on track 6 is the ride version. So this is actually 2 different breaks layered up. So it's that break that's on the first track, but then there's a secondary layer on each pad, which has a different break that's got these rides in it. And it was quite a lot of work, actually. I had to chop the same kind of chops for every break and match them up. So I did quite a lot of editing work on these breaks. So yeah, the first thing I need to do is go to the program editor, go to the global page, and then I've done my calculation online, and the difference in BPM means that I've got to bring the fine tuning of this down minus 0.6 semitones, and then that'll work at 170 now. So if we just solo it, well, I'm not going to do that. I promise you it will work at that BPM now. So let's go up to track 6 and do the same. And bring this fine tuning down again to minus 0.6 semitones. If I don't respond to any questions, guys, it's obviously because I'm doing this. I'm just going to big ups to the gas boiler. Yeah, nice, nice one, Jeremy. Hi, Ingmars. Hi, Wevik. Hi, Jim. Hi, MM. Hopefully I've said evening to you all. Franco Perez, thanks to you. I'm now making jungle. Yeah, you're welcome, man. I was trying to make it for 2 years. It would be dope to collab track with you one day. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be rude, Franco, but I'd like to try and work with someone. So yeah, I'll be happy to explore it. But yeah, I sort of, I'm quite single-minded. I try and be sort of open-minded with some things in life, but when I'm making music, you know, so I'd hate to get into a situation where it was like, you want to do this, I want to do that, and we end up falling out. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, because I can work with people, obviously. But yeah, I'll look into it, man. If anyone else wants to sort of do a collab, I'll see, but I'll know very quickly whether it's going to work. So it might just mean jumping on Zoom, and if we just get on well, just as normal, it's obviously worth taking it a bit further and see if we can actually do some tunes together. So yeah, I'm definitely not writing it off as an option. But yeah, I appreciate it, man. Yeah, maybe drop me an email and we can talk about it further. Same goes for anyone else. So yeah, so that's the breaks adjusted, so they will work now. Now the next thing I'm going to do is, for everything you see here, this goes back to my gain staging process. So this isn't like industry standard gain staging science. This is how I do it in MPC. So I'll just go back over it again if you guys don't know this. But you see you've got a pad level for every pad. This is the volume that comes after the sample, the level for each of the layers, the filter, and any effects. So if you are getting some distortion and you bring this down, all you're doing is reducing the volume of everything, which includes the distortion. You might not necessarily be affecting or positively impacting that distortion, because it might be coming from the filter or the effects. So adjusting this won't do anything. That will just allow you to mix it. But the best place to start after the actual volume of the sample itself, so what you can see here in terms of gain, is this level control for the different layers on your pads, of which you've got 4. So what I do when I start a project now, obviously I didn't do it for this one because it's not been done. You can see there's a difference in these 2 layers, because this is the secondary break. Okay, so this has got the dry break on layer 1 for all the pads, and this is the ride break, this bounce track 1. So that's a bit louder than the dry break, so I've had to bring that down pretty much around 50, around 50. So it means relatively I've got to bring these down. This is where I bring this down to, you know, somewhere halfway. So if I bring, well, first of all, got to go to my zones, select all zones. So this is going to affect all my pads for level for the level for layer 1. So I'm going to bring this down to about 60. So what's that? That's about, I've brought it down about 60. So that means I need to bring this one down the same. So 79, so it's going to be around 20, right? So that'll be the same for all these pads now. Okay, so I'm going to do the same for this. So it just means any effects that I've applied to these breaks will just sound so much better, and it just gives you, I don't know, it's just better than having your samples coming straight out at 127 for your different layers. So this one I just need to bring this down to 60. So that's that done. So hopefully that makes sense, guys. It's just my basic gain staging procedure, and I do recommend this anytime you make a track in your MPC. When you start a new project, or even if you're going back on an old project, bring your pad layer level down. Everyone I know, not everyone I know, but most people I know skip this step because they just obviously, you know, they think this is mainly for balancing the different levels. But once I learned that this is actually pre-fader, and this is post-fader, so this means this comes after everything else. So I've just adjusted that completely incorrectly. Yeah, this means you can keep all your pad levels at 0 and also all your program levels at 0. So I'm going to have to adjust those as well. So a lot of the mixing is being done within the actual program edit, you know, whether it's a key group program or a drum program from here, just to get your kind of base volume for all your samples. And then everything that comes after that, that's where you can start adding gain from any effects or compressors or anything like that. So that's that. I'm just going to go to the chat. And so that was Franco, Jeremy. I enjoy remixing you. It's easy and collab. What's that? Pelvin's one jams. Evening. Jeremy, anything that has volume setting is, yeah. So program edit. So program edit programs. Yeah, so this is the program editor, obviously, and I'm editing the level for the pads. So whatever layers you've got, I always bring this down around half, maybe to like 50, 60, maybe a bit lower. And it just gives you a bit more range, because you probably notice when you load samples into the MPC, it's a pretty loud machine, especially when you load in expansion packs that have been made by Akai or one of their third-party expansion pack developers. They're very loud. I always find I have to attenuate those samples via this, because you've got your sample volume, and then this is the next stage of volume before you go into the filter, and then the filter goes to the effect, and then the effect goes to the pad, and then the pad comes out of the program. Okay, so I don't want to get lost. That's the timing of the breaks and the individual sample levels. So I'm going to do the same in the SFX as well. So go to program edit. We're still adjusting all. Now I just need to check that I've not actually adjusted any of these and make them relative. I don't think I would have. No, so that's good. So again, I'm going to bring all these down 60. So everything, basically, all my samples are going to come down around 60 on that level control. It's unfortunate it doesn't actually give you a gain, you know, a gain measurement, so you know exactly what gain you're actually adjusting, or decibel, should I say. So that's the sound effects, and the bass will be the same. I shouldn't think I've adjusted anything on here. Hi, Cody. Yeah, I set all my sound volume to pink noise. Gergo or Jergo. I'm sorry if I got your name wrong, man. Hi, AK. Yeah, that's a good way to mix. If you've got pink noise, you can play pink noise back. I think it's at -6 dB or something like that. I can't remember what the actual procedure is. But then you mix into that pink noise. I've done that before and it works really well. It's sort of like if you can hear everything within that pink noise, and then you get rid of the pink noise, turn up your speakers, and your mix should sound, yeah, it's a good place to start balancing. Check out some videos on that pink noise mixing. It's a really good way. Ingmars, how you use, well, I'll show you the mixing desk soon, Ingmars, when we get to that. We'll get to that soon. I'm just adjusting the level of all these samples at the moment. This is kind of optimizing their volume before it comes out onto the desk. Not too much to go, just got 2 more tracks. Yeah, 2 more tracks. So this is percussion on track 4. This is literally just a ride and a hi-hat. So we can bring that down to 60. We might have to go back and bring some of these up, but this is a good place to start. And then I've got an extra sub bass just here, really deep one. So again, just bring that down to 60. Now I'm going to take it out of all zones mode, just in case we adjust something that we don't want to. Pink noise technique can give a well-balanced mix. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, check out the pink noise mixing technique, guys. I think I had touched on it in one of my videos maybe 2 or 3 years ago, but I should have done a dedicated video to it. But it's a really good technique. Just get a pink noise generator. You can get free VSTs that do it. You play the pink noise back at a set volume, and yeah, you just mix your sounds in it. You sort of bring up your sounds within that pink noise, and as soon as you start hearing them, it gives you a good balance between the high stuff and the low stuff, because they behave differently when you're listening to them at different levels. It's this kind of, and I suppose a good analogy is when you can hear like a concert playing and you can hear the bass coming over. The wavelengths for bass are a lot longer, and that's why you can hear bass coming from an outdoor concert 5 miles away instead of hearing all the high frequency stuff. So doing it in that kind of, intimate environment in your studio, it kind of helps balance your mix. Yeah, it's a good one. Thanks for mentioning that, Jogo or Gerjo. Please let me know if I'm saying your name right. Right, next step. So we've done the balancing of the layer levels. We've adjusted so there's one other thing that I need to do. There's a melodic sample in the sound effects, and it's this one here. So because I've adjusted the volume, sorry, not the volume, the tempo of the track from 176 down to 170, you can see it's missing off the mark now. I don't know if you can see that in my display up there. But this should be falling on the 2.1 and it's not. So if I warp it and then change this to 170, is that right? Yeah. Just to bring it back. Oh, well, yeah, I need to put it somewhere near 176, so 177. So the reason I've done that is obviously if I adjust the fine tune for this and bring that down minus 0.6 semitones, it's just going to be out of tune. So in this case, I'm using warp, and I have said in many of my videos that I don't use warp. That's actually a bit of a lie. I do use it if it's a very subtle change. As soon as you start going too far out of the range, whether it's the pitch or the timing of it, things start sounding very artificial. But I mean, this sample, to be honest, is quite electronic and synthy anyway. So that should be all working fine now. Right, so now we can get to the mixing bit. I'm just going to check the chat again, guys. Mitch, hi Mitch. Hope everything's good in Germany. I think I said hello to Cody. I think I said hello to everyone. If I didn't, hello everyone. Hello everyone. So, routing. Let's go to the channel mixer. And now we can start looking at the desk. So, when I played the track back, we were just getting 2-track stereo left and right coming out on here. What I'm going to do now is split all my channels out onto the desk. So all of these are set to PC mode, which means anything that I route out of this is going to come out on the desk. So everything's just coming out of these tracks in PC mode at the moment. So if in the routing page, I didn't get rid of that program. Let me just get rid of that before we start. Don't need this MIDI track. Let's delete that. And go back to there. I don't think we need program 2. Let's delete that. And program 001. So anything that's not named, I don't need. So again, this is quite a good exercise in going back to old projects and cleaning them up as well, just to make managing them, a lot easier. So we should have all our tracks here now. And then in the mixer, I've said it many times, guys, this is why the housekeeping's so important, because we can see what everything is exactly here, and that housekeeping includes deleting anything you're not using. I've purged my samples a long time ago out of this project, so I know that the project is only using the samples that are actually playing back. So that's why you can see my RAM is at 4%. and that is, I think that's the same in standalone as well. It's not just because I'm using the computer. I think it's very low in my when I put this in standalone as well. Okay, so we don't need to do any purging. So that's all that. Right, let's go back to the routing. So this is our first break. Hi, Reckless Kamikaze. Are you using any headphones in particular? No. Let me talk about headphones just quickly before I do this, because Reckless Kamikaze has brought that up. So I don't DJ with headphones, only because I've worked out my workflow and my method now to not be able to, and it actually is more beneficial. I do sometimes for specific things, but mostly all the gigs that I've played in the last 2 or 3 years, playing, you know, with either Machine or my MPC or the Akai Force. And I even did this back in the days when I used to DJ vinyl. I would take the headphones off and I would push the record, I would push the vinyl round. I'd take all the bass out of the record that was being mixed into the one that was already playing. So I just had the hi-hats. And then to be able to hear it out of the speakers, I just find it so much less claustrophobic. When I've got headphones on, it just feels like, you know, there's going to be some kind of delay. I want to actually hear what's coming out of the speakers. So in terms of DJing, I don't use them, and in the studio, definitely not. I tried many years ago in flats where I couldn't have the speakers up loud, or places where I lived. I would just mix at low volumes. I just find headphones very, I don't know, just claustrophobic and irritating in my head. And I tell you what, the worst thing is the bass response. Unless you've got a really expensive pair of headphones that are giving you a very accurate feedback, you know, it's like having a motorcycle or a car with tires that haven't got a good quality tread. They don't give you the feedback for the road. It's the same kind of thing for headphones. If they're misshapen to your ears, you know, if you've got enough money to get like a custom pair of headphones that match your ears, because you probably know this when you put definitely the closed cup headphones on and you sort of move them around, they give you all different kinds of bass kind of feedback, and it's just I don't mean feedback as in distortion. I mean as in what they're feeding back to you in terms of information. So yeah, I don't use headphones. I did have a friend of mine that I used to work with, Chris. He's actually called Donny. You might know him, Eamon Donny. He makes this just crazy kind of breakcore drum and bass with loads of snares. He's done stuff with he does this thing called the Dreadcast, I think. But I think he's done stuff with Audio, who does stuff with Ed Rush and those guys. But yeah, he's a brilliant mix engineer. And because he was in the flat with his girlfriend at the time when I first met him, he used to tell me that he just used spectrum analyzers to work out what frequencies were that he had to adjust, which is just a whole different, you know, I've used them, but I would never consider myself experienced with them. But he would use headphones, but he'd use visual tools like spectral analysis to kind of see what was going on with the frequencies. So yeah, I don't use headphones. Digger, why Tascam and not a Mackie Onyx? As far as I know, I might be wrong, but I thought the Tascam was more flexible in terms of splitting out the separate channels. I did look into the Onyx, but I went for this just because, you know, it was a bit, I did fall for it a little bit because there was a lot of hype around it and people saying that the Model 12 and the 16 worked well with MPCs. The Onyx, it was a little bit of a grey area as to whether it did what I wanted it to do. That's the only reason. What are the best value monitor speakers? Well, you know, I would say the ones that I've got, which are focal 65s. So it's a 6.5 inch woofer, I believe. That's why it's called a 65. Yeah, they're really good for the money. I can't remember how much I paid for mine. Maybe £300 or £400 for the pair, maybe less. But they're excellent. They're the best speakers I've ever had. Really good. I've got a couple of friends who, one of my friends has got the, I think the 8-inch ones. I think they're called Focal 80s maybe. But they're really good as well. I need an EQ summing box for between. Yeah, sorry, G Sondi. I don't know anything about those like a summing box. yeah, the Studio Master is like an old vintage, yeah, an old vintage desk that I just use to saturate drums and stuff. Right, so I'm going to get back to the chat in a while, guys. Let's just carry on with this for the moment. So my breaks are going to come out. Currently, like I said, everything is coming out stereo, but I want the breaks mono, I want the bass mono, and I want my percussion mono. So I'm going to change this to output 1. So that's just going to come out here, which means I need to adjust my panning into the center. Otherwise, that would just be left now because it's mono. Right, so my breaks are there. My next track, which is going to be mono, is going to be the other break. So that's also going to be coming out of 1. Okay, so ultimate break 1 and ultimate break 2, they're both going to be coming out of here. So it's the dry break and the ride break. So on track 2, I'm going to have my percussion, right? So this is also going to be mono. It doesn't need to be stereo. So this is going to come out of track 2. Quite often I like to have these in exactly the same order, but that's just me being kind of a bit OCD about things, but it doesn't really matter as long as I can see it here. So the percussion is coming out here. Again, we need to adjust this, put that in the middle. Next is my sound effects. I generally always have this coming out of either 3 and 4 or 5 and 6. So I'm going to choose 3 and 4. So that means these can stay the same. They're stereo. So my pans are left and right. So I get stereo for my sound effects because they're also being sent to the delay, which I also want in stereo. So the next thing that I need to put on 5 and 6 is going to be my returns. So if I go to my returns, which is where I've got this delay, that also needs to come out of a stereo pair, which is 5 and 6. Okay, so that's where my sound effects are going to be coming out. So you're going to hear the sound effects because they're going through nearly, I think the whole thing is being sent to the returns. But it's just nice having that additional, the sends like on a separate channel so you can EQ them just in case. And it does give quite a nice effect as well. You can blend between them. So that's why I like to have those separate. And then the last one is all my bass sounds. So let's go back to programs. So sub needs to come out of 7. I don't need to separate these. These can all come out the same channel. So this is again mono. So I need to set that in the middle. These are my pans controls here, guys, just in case you can't see that. So it's pan at the top of the faders here. So that's 7. Now this one, bounce track 1, I think that's also a break, and I'm not too sure where that's being used. That's confusing me a bit. Maybe that's not being used. I'll just make sure I set that just in case. I don't think that's being used. So I'm just going to set that to where all my breaks are coming out. But as far as I know, that's not coming out anywhere. So yeah, I've got another bass sound here. I'll get back to the chat in a sec, guys, when I finish this. So this is my main bass program with the 3 or 4 different bass sounds. That's not 1. That needs to come out of 7 as well. And I think that's it. Breaks on 1, SFX on 3 and 4, bass on 7, percussion on 2, sub again on 7, my secondary break, which I'm a bit confused about. I don't think I'm using this one, this bounce track 1. I might be. I don't think I am because it doesn't come up in the track list. And then my secondary, I think this is my secondary break. Again, that's on channel 1. So that's it. Breaks, percussion, sound effects, returns, and bass. So 7 tracks in total. Sorry, guys. I had my channel down. I don't know how long that was going on for. Can you let me know where it got to? Someone in the chat. I'm really sorry, guys. Yeah, it's back on now, guys. Let me know. Yeah, it's back on, guys. Can you tell me roughly where I got to? Because hopefully I've not been talking for ages and ages and you haven't heard anything. If someone could just let me know roughly where I got up to, and then I'll pick it up. Apologise, guys. It's because I was doing this and then just pulled that down. Anyone? Someone let me know where I got up to before it cut out, if you can remember. 3 minutes. Thanks, AK, but only about a minute. Roughly, what was I saying? And this isn't alcohol, by the way. This is water. That's not why that happened. Just at the beginning of the mix, you explain the split of channels. Well, I'll go back over roughly. What was I saying? I think I was actually responding to the low hiss noise that G Sondi had asked about. Yeah, okay, so yeah, that's fine. So it was just I was responding to someone's question about low hiss noise. So yeah, if it were me and I had a machine and either the sample in that machine was really low or the I'm just going to turn this up a bit. Let's say the sample was low or the actual volume of the sampler itself was low. That is one of the most common problems. So it's optimizing the signal chain. So it's kind of like a gain staging thing again. So if you've got hiss, then that could just literally be coming from the fact that you've raised your fader, but the source sound, that's the first place I would look. It could be anything. Excuse me, guys. It's the water repeating on me. Yeah, the first place that I would look if you're getting hiss is if your actual source sound, whether that's a synth sampler or the sample that's being played from it or the patch, optimize the sound that is coming out of that first stage before it hits your mixer. If it hits your mixer and it's too quiet and you're turning up your listening volume, all you're doing is, think of it as, I've said this before, this bottle's perfect. Look, that's noise and that's your volume, that's your sample sound in there. So if that's too low, the ratio's off, isn't it? You've got more noise in that thing. Think of this as the entire, range of volume. You need to bring this source sound up to there. So when you raise your volume, the noise is only occupying this amount of space. Yeah? That's the best analogy I can give. But that's like basic. It could be anything. It could be anything to do with your gear, your personal situation in the studio. There could be it's like a multitude of issues that could be causing that noise, but that's where I would start. Right, so I'm ready to start mixing this now. So yeah, I'm just going to play from the start and start bringing these in. So the sound effects are pretty much at the start. So I'm going to bring my mic down, guys, and yeah, if you've got any other questions, yeah, just put them in the chat, and once I'll probably stop and start. There's going to be some things I'll probably need to correct. And then, yeah, I'll just bring my mic back up. I'll remember to bring it back up this time.
Lying just beneath everyday reality is a breathtaking world where much of what we perceive about the universe is wrong.
Okay, right, so I know what I've done wrong, guys. I've missed a step, and that's the channel mixer, the levels of the actual programs. You can see that I've adjusted this whilst doing my mix. Because I've adjusted the layer level for all the pads and all the samples. Sorry if you can hear some bangs outside. It's like the worst possible night to have done this live stream because there's fireworks kicking off everywhere outside, out in the back where I am. Yeah, so I'm going to bring all of these back up to 0, right? So this kind of gain staging thing that you saw me do with the layer level has taught me that we can keep all our pads initially and our programs at 0 and start our mix from those layer levels. This is just the way I prefer to do it. I'm not saying that you should do it. I'm just saying this is how I do it. Especially when you're mixing on a desk now. I mean, this is the main reason why I'm adjusting these all back to 0 is because now this is where I'm going to be doing this mixing. But it's something I also do, even if I'm not splitting this out onto a mixer. I still do this in standalone on my MPC One or the Force. I keep all these at 0 now. And I find it helps if you're automating volumes or something for your mix. You don't want to be automating these because or again, you can if you like, but for me personally, I start getting lost if I have automated some volumes and then something's a bit too quiet. I've then got to delete that automation and it just gets messy. So I prefer to have these all at 0, all my pad levels at 0, and then I can start balancing the mix maybe with the pads, but I would keep all the programs definitely at 0 dB, especially if you're splitting out onto a desk. Just press the menu button instead of shift. So yeah, all these need to go to 0 because the mix is now coming out onto the Model 24. And right, before I start getting into it again, I'll go back to the chat, guys. So Nick has asked, do you record the final mix? No. So I think I said earlier, maybe you joined a little bit after, Nick, but I only use the live mode, which is anything you plug into the physical inputs, or the PC mode to mix stuff from the computer. I've not actually used the MTR mode, which is the multi-track recorder mode. I think I've just used it once just to test it and played back, but I've never really got into it. I will try that at some point. Maybe I'll do a stream on that. But I record either into Ableton mostly, or sometimes I'll use Bitwig. Bitwig sounds better, but I just know Ableton better just because I've been using it for longer. But yeah, I'll just, with any piece of gear, whether it's in standalone or if I'm using MPC, very rarely, I'm only using it for the live stream in controller mode, or if there's some other specific situation that requires me to do that. But generally, everything gets recorded as a stereo, 2-track stereo into Ableton, unless I'm using my little analog mixer, which is behind me over here, which I showed in my live stream, and this Evo, which I've got up on a rack up here, which is another 16-channel audio interface. Even then, because that's going through a secondary mixer, and then that's coming into this mixer, it will just be a stereo track recording into Ableton or Bitwig. Sky Saber's saying, do you use wave synths like Serum? Yeah, I have done. I've got Serum, but I hardly ever use it. I much prefer Arturia Pigments. I've also got Vital, which is a really good one. I'm poised to purchase. I really want to get my hands on Falcon. It's supposed to be amazing. But yeah, I don't, I've got a modular synthesizer, so, I do sample that quite a lot. And there's another one that I've been using recently as well, another soft synth that I've been using quite a bit. I forget what it's called. But again, Bitwig as well. Bitwig's built-in synthesizers are really good. They do wavetable, and even the samplers in them have got some brilliant synthesis functionality. So yeah, if you haven't tried Bitwig, guys, I do recommend Bitwig. It's really good. Yeah, right. So let's get back into this mix. So everything's at 0 now. So I'm going to bring all these down. I'm going to switch off my mic and try this mix again. Okay, so there's something going on with my sound effects. They seem to be very quiet now. Let's go to the program. Maybe that's not routed properly. What's going on with that? Sound effects 3 and 4. I know. I think. There you go. The pad is coming out of 1 and 2 for some reason. So, yeah, that's something I missed there, guys. I think this is the only pad in the project that's doing this, but this pad is not going through the sound effects program. This is the voice sample. It's actually coming out of out 1 and 2 there, which means it will be bypassed, you know, where I've routed it elsewhere. So it needs to come out the program, which is coming out of 3 and 4. Sorry, I keep headbutting the mic if you can hear that bumping. So just switch that to program.
Lying just beneath
there you go.
Everyday reality is a breath.
And I think I also need to go into the program and bring this up because it's quite, even though the sample itself is, you can see the waveform, it looks quite thick. It's actually quite a quiet sample, this. So I'm going to bring that up to there.
Is a breathtaking world where much of what we perceive about the universe, lying just beneath everyday reality, is a breathtaking world where much of what we perceive about the universe is wrong. just beneath everyday reality is a breathtaking world where much of what we perceive about the universe is wrong.
Yo. So yeah, it doesn't sound too bad, but I've realised that some of my looping is kind of messed up on here. So this gas boiler sample, that was looping before, but when I think I switched it to all zones for some reason, it's lost the loop, which was really annoying. So there was bits where you might have heard some sounds were just cutting off quite sharply. So that's kind of annoying because I can't go back unless I just reload the project up and adjust everything again, which I could do pretty quickly, but I'm not going to. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I think it was this sample that wasn't looping. I think this was here. Possibly. That wasn't looping. Or that. This was. I'll just talk about that quickly. That's a really nice effect. So when you've got a looping sample, and that's kind of strange. I thought I had some kind of envelope modulation going. I think, oh yeah, it's the filter. So it's a really slow LFO. But yeah, you can get a similar effect with an envelope. But yeah, I'm going to just go back to the start, guys. Sorry if it's the same track all over again, but that's what we're doing. But yeah, it might sound a bit better now because some of these effects weren't looping before because they just switched off for some reason. Go back to the chat. Thank you, AK. Thanks, Sky Saber. Yeah. Reverse drum kit. Yeah, drum hit. Yeah, so some of the breaks are like separate. Oh, thank you, Harry. Oh, wow, that's really kind of you, man. I very thoroughly appreciate that. That's really kind, man. Dumb out of scope question. How are you capturing... I'm sorry, man. You can't pay me to tell you that. It's trade secret. It's... I'm one of very few people that... I think someone else has done it on some tutorials, but I'm sorry. I really appreciate the donation. I feel like a bit... you know what I mean? It's just, I can't. It's something that I just keep close to my chest. I'll tell you why, because it took me ages to work out how to do it. And it's how I produce all my sort of masterclass tutorials. And it's like, what am I going to do? You know, it's completely up to someone else if they want to investigate that, how to do it. But it took a lot of time to kind of work out how to do it. And it is glitchy. Like literally when I got the latest update this week, it just wouldn't work. And this live stream almost didn't happen because of it, because I just really wanted to, you know, if you look at my other tutorials in the last couple of years, they're all the same. They've all got this screen capture of the MPC TUI, not the GUI, obviously. But I appreciate the donation, man. I really do apologise though. That's like trade secret. If you can do your research and find out, it's just one thing that I keep close to my chest, and I hope you understand, man. I give away a lot. I've given away so many trade secrets on this channel before, but that's one that I'll let other people kind of find out how to do it. But I do appreciate the donation, man. You're welcome to retract it if you know, if need be. But it's very much appreciated, man. I'm completely lost where I was up to. I think I was just going back to the chat. Right, let's see if this mix works a bit better now with these things. So I'm going to turn off my mic and I'll get back. No, thanks. That was, yeah, thank you, Harry. Big up yourself, man. Appreciate it. Right, let's see if this mix works better with these loops fixed now.
Lying just beneath everyday reality is a breathtaking world where much of what we perceive about the universe is wrong. So I'm just going to stop it there just for a second, guys. So you might have seen me going back to this pad layer level and bringing it back up again. And I've adjusted the breaks from 60 up to 86. And this is for all pads in my first breaks program. And it hasn't, in my opinion, taken away anything from the other sounds. It's just made the breaks more full. And this is what I'm trying to say to you. It's quite deceptive in terms of how you're perceiving these sounds and these graphic kind of displays of what's going on. I would always just use your ears. Like, I can hear that break sounded a bit weak up against everything else. So I've brought it up to 86. So I've increased it by 26 from what it was here. It's not distorting the break. And if you just look at my faders here, these are like, this is not good because I've gone beyond 0 here. And it's just good practice, like, to not go above 0. I mean, again, yeah, use your ears. I'm kind of contradicting myself in some regard by saying, like, just use your ears. But obviously, when you've got a physical mixer, you have to kind of use both. And I've also had to bring up some of the sound effects pad volumes as well. They were a little bit out of balance and not at 0. And the reason for that is because you've got to mix those, obviously, relative to one another and in context. So they sound good here because I'm not splitting all the sound effects out onto individual pads. So the mixing of those has already been done. But this is good because this gives me another level of flexibility to mix those in context with one another. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, I've increased the breaks. They're just like punching through much more now. So I'm going to not play start. I'm going to just play from this position again. just beneath everyday reality is a breathtaking world where much of what we perceive about the universe is wrong.
Hi guys. Yeah, so right, it still needs work, and I'm not going to do that now because it's just little tweaky little things, and I don't think you're going to get loads from it. But yeah, let's have a Q&A if you've got any other questions, guys, because I'm not going to stay on for too much longer. How long have we been on for now? Let's have a look. But yeah, those gain staging things with a layer level, it's really important. I know I've already done a video on it, but yeah, it's always good to re-emphasize that, go back over it and recommend that you do it. The white noise mixing that someone suggested, really good. It's a really good suggestion. Check any pink noise videos. And yeah, obviously you saw me adjust all my pad volumes. Now, I'm not saying don't mix with the pads, but before you mix with the pads, I would definitely adjust the sample layer levels and mix there first and get those kind of working in context with each other, unless you're splitting them all out separately. But obviously you're going to need a huge desk to do all that if you've got multiple samples. But mix them in MPC like that, and then, you know, you can start adjusting your pad levels. You know, it's totally up to you, but as you can see, most of mine, I mean, I should really get all these to 0 and then go back to the layer levels and rebalance them there. And it just makes any effects you put on them sound much better, in my opinion. Like, definitely distortions, compressors seem to work better and things like that. Harry, I was late and missed the first. Yeah, of course, Harry. Yeah, any of these live streams that I'm going to be doing, unless there's some absolute tragedies that occur whilst I'm doing them, something terrible happens or something breaks and it's just a complete disaster, then yeah, they'll always be uploaded. So yeah, you can check it out tomorrow or later tonight. I'm sure it'll be available. I think even now you can go back, but obviously you're going to miss what I'm saying now live if you do that. But yeah, you can actually rewind now, I believe. But yeah, it will be here for you. So yeah, Andrew, yeah, so what I'm saying is I've just got into this habit now of not touching any of my program volumes. I keep those 0, and that and until much later on, only if I have to adjust the levels of them. Because obviously, if you've got a program with multiple sounds, you can, it's just kind of almost like having a submix. I know we've got actual submixes, but it's almost like this is your group of sounds that you can bring down as an entire group. So let's say these are all mid-range sounds, and then you've got another program that's kind of bass sounds, another program that's more high-frequency sounds. And that's how you do submixes usually, is because you're routing similar frequency range sounds into groups. Then you can balance things out a lot easier and EQ them in the same kind of range. So yeah, what I'm saying is generally I've started to, if you look at some of my new projects, I'm not really touching these at all, even the pad levels. But of course, if you need to, then go ahead if you like mixing with these. But the reason I've got out of the habit of mixing with these is because I'm finding that using the layer level for the sample, which is this parameter here, this is the first place that comes after the actual waveform itself. And it like a lot of things in MPC, it actually does show you that. So this is, well, saying that's incorrect, because we've got this is why it gets confusing. This pad level is actually the last stage of volume before this hits the program, but it's on the first page, and I think that's where it gets confusing. This is actually post, or the effects at least are a pre-fader, so meaning they come before. I know that's not an actual fader here, but what you're feeding the effects is this volume here. You're feeding it that. You're also feeding the filter this. So the filter and effects are then hitting this pad level, and then that pad level is going to the program. And that's just, the signal chain that I've discovered is the best way to kind of, you could get a rough mix by adjusting these. And then if you need to just, further mix them via these. And, this is what an experienced studio engineer told me many years ago in the 90s. He said, cut, don't add. Simply that. So it's the principle of, if you add more stuff into the mix, whether it's gain, EQ, effects, you're just adding more mud to wade through. If you're cutting, then you're creating space. So, once you've balanced everything with the layer level and you've got effect, particularly if you're using effects, you'll get the best quality out of those effects. And then when it hits the pad here, that's when you can start cutting. So if you need to increase the volume of something, let's say, like, I've saved this now, so it doesn't really matter if I adjust it, but let's put all these at 0. Bear in mind, guys, I'm not a qualified mix engineer. This is just all trial and error over the years. So, there's well be people out there that have done mixing courses and thinking you're talking shit, mate. But this is what works for me. And I think I said it in my other live stream the other night, is that it's such a wide playing field now, and you get these videos that say the best way to do this. Everyone uses different tools. Everyone's got a different room. Everyone's got different ears. You can't really. There's sometimes you've just got to break the rules. If that, again, what rules? What rules am I breaking? But what I'm trying to say is that once you've balanced things at the layer level, you've got your sample volume itself, which is the first stage. You've got the layer level, any effects that you put thereafter. Then you've got the pad, which is this volume here. Okay, for each of your individual samples. If you still need to balance things here, and you would cut. So don't add. Let's say this sample here on pad 2 is quiet amongst these ones. Bring these ones down. Don't add gain to that. Never go into the red. I've said this before. Never go into the red with these. I should have said that. I've been telling you what to do. I'm going to tell you definitely not what to do. In my opinion, these should never be over. And, having said that, that's why I've kept these, most of them. So like on my desk, the percussion is going over. But because they're quite light sounds, so this is 0 here, where you can see this gap. Just it's hard to see on my camera unless I zoom in. Let me zoom in. So yeah, the percussion was up here. and that's at plus 6 dB. So it's essentially like having this there, right? So again, I'm being a bit of a hypocrite because I'm saying, you know, you can break the rules, and that is kind of breaking kind of like what you'd say an an industry standard rule is like don't go above 0 dB. It's just something that I think is good practice, is to keep everything at least at or below 0 dB. And I don't have any scientific knowledge about why that's a good idea. And when I master my tunes, they're rough masters. I definitely would never say that I'm a qualified mix or mastering engineer, but every mix that I've given, pretty much, maybe bar a couple to record labels, I've only ever had a couple of comments that say, yeah, it's like, can you just bring the bass down a little bit? But someone, one of my good friends that runs a label that I've got stuff coming out on soon, he did say to me, no, mixes sound good. And it was like really quite a big deal for me for him to say that, because he's a brilliant mix engineer, and I think he is. You know, all his tunes sound great, and they definitely have this refinement which I think I don't have. Yeah, but we do completely different, not completely different tunes, but the way we mix is different, I think. But to get that kind of compliment from him was quite a big deal for me. So he said, you know, like, and I think a lot of that's to do with my room. I'm used to the room, so there's so many, you know, variables and reasons why things sound good or not good. You know, you've got to have a decent environment, you've got to have a decent enough pair of speakers, and you have to, those years of experience, all these things lead up to that. And you know, so what I'm saying is, yeah, don't add, especially with volume. And EQ is a good one. So like, let's say this break wasn't that bright, I was actually adding high frequencies there. Sometimes that's fine to do that, but sometimes you can find that you can just drop your bass out and then crank up the gain. So you're increasing the gain of the high frequencies more because you're reducing the bass. But that doesn't always give you the effect. And I talk about this a lot. There's a difference between effects, whether it's EQ, compression, most of those kind of more utility style effects. They are exactly that. They're either an effect, like a compressor could be used as an effect to make things sound really like trashy and almost distorted and slammed. But obviously compression, it was initially invented to reduce, you know, for radio broadcasts, like, you know, to balance the voice, and that's where you get the classic ducking thing. That's what the first compression circuits were designed to do. So, and the same with EQ, it's a utility, but in this instance I was kind of more using it as an effect and a utility just to brighten it up. So you can break the rules, and I'm not saying you can't add, but I would always cut first rather than add. Like, EQ's fine, but I wouldn't add gain. I suppose it's what context you mean. Don't add gain here or in the programs. Like, don't overload these. There's no need to. I would have the listening. This is why I used to show on my MPCX, that main volume knob was always up fully loud. So it gave me the truest possible volume feedback. Not distortion feedback, as in information to work with. So, you know, your source, and this also ties into what someone else was saying about the noise, the white noise, the signal to noise ratio. If that's poor, it's the first place I would always look is the volume of the machine that the sound is coming out of. Then I would look at the sample itself. Has it been normalized? Has the sample itself got noise on it? And can that be restored or treated or reduced with a filter, with a low pass filter or something like that? If the sample is not very good, you're polishing a turd. You know, that's the classic expression. Like, if you've got some kind of, if your sound is a bit shit, you're just adding more, you're just shining that shit up, like, you know, as you go on. So there might be decisions you have to make where it's like, this sample sounds great, it's got a lot of soul, but is it lo-fi in a good way, or is it lo-fi and it's just shit, and do I have to choose a different sound? So yeah, and going back to the cutting and adding thing, it's like, you know, you know, if you're having to crank a sample up so loud because it, you know, you've got these at 0 and it's still really quiet, and you look at the waveform, and this is another thing that I've learned, is that, you know, this waveform, I'm not saying this particular one, just using it as a visual example, it looks really thick. So it's high chance that the frequencies are full in it. But if the EQs are off in this sample, let's say you got it from somewhere and someone else EQ'd it, or you EQ'd it and it wasn't very good, this sample might look loud, but it might not have a good blend of frequencies that suit that actual sound. Like, this is a bass sound, but it might just be really loud because it's got a load of high frequency noise in it. So it looks loud, but the actual frequency you want to be loud isn't even present in the sample. So there's so many different things that, you know, you've got to look at. But generally, after, you know, a good amount of time doing this, you'll get to learn what samples to use, what not to use, which ones to use. Yeah, this kind of ties in with like sample selection. Like, I can get a track going quite quickly now, and a lot of that is to do with, sorry, I'm going to bring this back. A lot of that is to do with just having an experienced ear to go, right, this will work better with this sample, this snare will work best or really good with this kick, and it won't work well with this kick, and that speeds things up. And it, you know, that's quite an important thing that people, you know, they get frustrated. I see a lot of people get frustrated. I think there's a meme that goes around about snares. Like, I think there was one that was quite funny like a while ago, and it had a picture of someone and it said me trying to find the perfect snare. There's been loads of them, but there was one particular one, and it made me think, it's like, well, that's not actually the case. Like, you can make any snare work if you know how to use an amplitude envelope, a filter, and an EQ, and they're basic, you know, rudimentary facilities that we've got available to us, which we definitely wouldn't have had years ago, you know, on a little standalone sampler. So it's very easy to it's just about knowing how to use those things. You know, you can make like a completely random sound. You could like, I've done it on the channel. I've turned kick drums into completely different samples just by scooping out frequencies, increasing the gain, distorting them, shortening them, and you're designing your own instruments. Then it's kind of like, you know, somewhat like acoustic modeling, but not acoustic modeling, but you know what I mean. You're modeling your own instruments via sampling and synthesis techniques. But yeah, guys, any other questions? Because I'm going to round this up in a bit. I will get this track finished, and then I'll do a little Instagram video, and then post it up on my Bandcamp if you want to grab it from there. And in fact, yeah, everyone that's joined this chat, if you send me an email, I'll just send it to you. I'm not going to charge for the track because, you know, I appreciate you getting involved. If you want to, you can, on Bandcamp, you can donate, or you can pay a price. In fact, yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll put it on Bandcamp for free, and if you want to pay for it, you can choose whatever you want to pay for it. I'll think of some way, but because you've joined in tonight, yeah, I appreciate it, and you can get the track somehow. But I need to. I think it's all right as it is. It just needs a little tiny bit of extra work. Ali Star slot machine snare. Oh yeah, there was a slot machine one. Yeah, I remember that, Ali. Lo-fi goes against all this. Overdrive. Yeah, there's the other. What's that other genre? Where they use the is it the cowbell? It's this real grimy southern hip hop stuff. I quite like a lot of it. There's a guy called Freddie Dredd, I think, who I follow, who works in that genre. I forget what it's called now. Someone I watched a tutorial and like someone was showing how to make it. I mean, it's kind of obvious if you hear it, but it's I quite like the genre. It's sort of, I think it comes from Atlanta or somewhere in not South America, but the some of the southern states. I forget what it's called now. It's like this really grimy kind of style of trap. But yeah, there's I quite like that. But you can tell like some people are in the lo-fi thing, and it's just lo-fi just because it's not very good quality. But I think that's where it's come from. A lot of it's come from people having, you know, a lack of gear, which I love. But you can hear when someone's like, you know, got like loads of expensive gear and they're just trying to do lo-fi. Like, just get the original thing. Louisiana Andrew said, yeah, maybe. I can't remember what it's called. It's really annoying me. It's like sometimes I get these brain freezes. It's a genre of music that, and you see a lot of these guys. I've seen a lot of like guys, these Russian guys that customize their sort of lowrider cars and stuff, and they seem to put the music to those videos. It's really grimy. I like it. It's always like 808 drums, and they always have a melody that's made out of. If anyone knows what the genre is called, I forget what it's called now. I think it begins with P, maybe. Can't remember. Any other questions, guys? Let me know before I sign off, and then I'll get this video. Well, YouTube will automatically just put it there, and it will be there for you to replay if you wish. Any other questions, guys? If not, please put in the chat, bye-bye, I'm good, or something like that, because I don't want to cut anyone off before I go. Is there anything I've missed or anything that I did in the video or in the stream that you would like me to elaborate on? Because I'll stay on for a bit longer. What time is it? It's only 20 to 11 here in London. So, yeah, I don't mind staying on for a bit. I just don't want to sit here and say nothing. That's all. You're welcome, AK. Maybe a delay or the sends. How I've got them set up. If you can just elaborate on what aspect of that, Gerjo or Gerjo. Let's go get dinner. Well, as much as I've already had actually I haven't had my dinner tonight. I had a bit of scrambled egg. Yeah. I mean, I can just, whilst you're, if you want to elaborate on the question about the delay or the sends, I can just show you briefly. It's really simple. I've just got a delay. So this delay, I'll talk about this for a bit. So this project was made when the Air Delay wasn't around, and definitely the Air Delay Pro. And this was always my favourite delay, and this is an Akai one. I don't know if Air developed this in the background, but this has been around for ages. I think this is on the MPC 5000, but it's just great. It's just got a really, if I go to the sound effects track, but just when you mess around with the, it's got a I forget what it's called, something and flutter, isn't it? It's like tape. So it emulates an old tape delay. So it's got like a wow and flutter. Is it wow, I think? I forget what the term is, but it's just like a tape that's kind of, speeding up and slowing down, and you get all these really weird. So like the more that's increased, you get these weird effects. So So yeah, you've got to be really careful with this delay because it's got 4 tape heads, and these, they're just adding more gain into the mix. So if you've got your feedback up quite high, and this will self-resonate as well. If I stick that up, this will start self-resonating in a minute. Especially if you've got a low delay time. Or it should do. It's not doing it now, but yeah, you got to be careful because I've had this self-resonating, and then suddenly it will just have this like very quick build-up of volume. But it's a really good delay. But yeah, I mean, that's literally, I'm just sending individual pads to it, and I'm also sending, I believe the whole sound effects program might be being sent to that as well. So if you go to sends, no, it's not. It's individual pads, I think. Oh, it's the wrong program. So channel mixer. No, it's not. So it's just, yeah, individual pads are going through send one, and that comes out of return one and goes into the effect. But yeah, no other questions, guys. So yeah, I'm going to sign off. I hope you've enjoyed this live stream. In the meantime, before the next one, I'm going to think about what to do. If you've got any suggestions, maybe put them in the comments of this video when it goes up after this stream, or just send me an email if you've got any suggestions for things that you'd like to see me do live on YouTube in the next coming weeks. All right, guys, thanks for joining in. Thanks again, Harry, for your donation. It's very kind of you, and keep your eyes out, guys, because I will be posting this track on my Bandcamp soon. And yeah, have a nice weekend, and I'll speak to you soon, guys. Big up. Peace.